Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. If you have been watching all of my videos this week looking at this recent X-Men themed Marvel Legends wave, then thank you for persevering and sticking with me. Today I'll be wrapping up my look at this wave by focusing solely on the Build-A-Figure, which is Holocaust. To date, this character has only ever been produced once in the Marvel Legends line. It was also a Build-A-Figure, and it was notoriously difficult to build because that particular wave of figures was not very accessible, at least in the UK. So I never got many parts of this figure, if hardly any actually, and it's always been a source of frustration for me because I've always had quite a soft spot for the look of this character, and it always looked like such a cool, very different kind of figure to have in the collection. So when this Build-A-Figure wave was announced, I was absolutely delighted to finally be able to get a second chance to get my hands on a Holocaust figure. However, he's got a very, very different look this time around because this is a more modern take on the character. But that being said, I'm still very happy to have him represented, and I still think this costume's pretty cool. And the first thing I have to say about this figure before we get onto the sculpting is just how chunky and heavy he feels. There's a nice weight to this figure once he's fully built, and I have to give him top marks for that because it's always a sign of real quality. Now, we start off by taking a look at the sculpting then. Obviously, everything on this figure is absolutely brand new. A lot of effort has gone into this figure, and I definitely appreciate that. Now, when the figure is fully assembled, he does sport this rather funky domed helmet, which is very cool. I really like the orange translucent plastic they've used here. But if we lift that off underneath, we can see this fantastic skull, which is really nicely sculpted. I'm not sure if they've borrowed this from Ghost Rider. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I suppose a skull is a skull. But hey, it looks really cool. I love the paint taps here, particularly in the eye sockets. But there's actually some shadings to the temple as well, a little bit around the teeth. It looks really good. Then he's also got the translucent flame plastic around his sort of collar there, which looks great as well. So this looks really cool, and sadly you don't really see the flame so much once he's got his helmet on, which is a bit of a shame because it looks excellent, and it's really nice that they've put this effort into this sculpting. Then if we look at the body, we can just see there's just so much detail here. There's lots of individual dents and grooves and all sorts of dings to his outer costume, which is really cool. This sort of armor that he wears. But this is very nicely sculpted. There's a lot of detail here. There are some decent paint taps, particularly in the orange sort of deco that we see going around it. And we can see they've actually got used different sort of plastic when it comes to the undersuit, I suppose, the more clothy elements in between the armor pieces. Sadly, there isn't much in the way of paint taps like washes running over the figure. On mine, I do notice a little bit around the shoulder on the right hand side, but that's largely it, if I'm being completely honest. I can't see much else anywhere else, and that's a shame because I think just a little bit of a wash over this fantastic sculpting would really bring this to life even more. But that being said, they haven't done a bad job because the detailing here is pretty fantastic, and he looks visually very impressive through the use of coloured plastic that they've opted for. His right arm is basically an overpowered weapon, which looks very cool. A lot of detail on that, some individual orange paints in different places, which just brings it a little bit more to life, which is very cool. And you'll notice in the back of his arm there is the option to plug in this orange tubing which connects into his arm and then into his backpack, which is very cool as well. And this works really very nicely. Conversely, on the other arm, we have a more standard arm, I suppose, with a fist at the end of it. And again, plenty of detailing here. A lot of this is original and unique. And the same remains true for the rest of the figure when we look at his legs there and of course onto his feet. Now, I will say this, he's got a pretty wide surface area and he does stand freely, nice and comfortably. However, I have noticed a tendency for this figure to want to over topple when he's overbalanced, particularly because of that gun arm. So if you've got that outstretched, he's probably going to fall over. So be mindful of that. You might want to use a stand to plug him into. Looking at the articulation, if you take the dome off, you can see that he can move his head from side to side and wobble it left and right, and he can even nod it up and down. So there's plenty going on there. There's a ball joint in the top of the skull, which is really pleasing. He also has a hinged jaw as well, which is cool. So you can actually get a couple of different looks and expressions, I suppose, out of this head sculpt, which is great. He's got a ball joint in the shoulder. Thankfully, the shoulder pads there will accommodate the lifting up of the arm, which is great. He's got a complementary bicep swivel, and he's even got a double pin at the elbow, although the best you're going to get out of this is a 90-degree hinge before he finally has the standard pin swivel at the elbow there. So that hand will rotate all the way around and hinge forwards and backwards as you would expect. Now he's got something approaching a sort of ratchet ball joint sort of thing in his upper torso. It will allow him to move from side to side. There's a little bit of give, leaning left and right, but not much. And he can lean forwards and backwards ever so slightly, although it's not a huge range of motion. He does have ball joints in the hips, so he can kick his legs all the way out. The thigh swivel will rotate all the way around as well, which is great, although it does have a tendency to pop out. You can kick the leg forward, but it doesn't really go back very far at all. He does have a double joint at the knee though, so he can kick his lower leg all the way back there, which is great, before he has the standard ankle pivot there at the ankle, allowing him to hinge forwards and backwards and of course rock that ankle from side to side. He doesn't come with any accessories per se, but he does come with an alternate open palmed hand. And no matter how you slice it, whether you're using that open palmed hand or the closed fist, this is a pretty imposing figure with some pretty cool articulation. And it doesn't really matter what you do with him, he's always going to look pretty striking. And a lot of that is down to his imposing size. If we stand him next to a standard 6-inch Marvel Legends figure, in this case I've chosen Cyclops from this wave, you can see just how tall he is, how he towers above your average Marvel Legends figure, which is pretty cool. And there's no denying this guy is a bit of a beast, a real monster for your Marvel Legends to fight, which is really, really nice. And as I said, there's something really nice about the quality of this figure when he's fully assembled. He's got a nice weight to him. He feels very, very solid, and for that reason I feel that this figure has definitely earned the 4 stars. I started off the video by saying just how excited I was for this particular release. I've really wanted a Holocaust figure in my collection, even though it's not my preference of style or costume. I have to say I'm super impressed, and I'm really, really glad I have him. I have to say, I think this is one of the best builder figures Marvel Legends have put out over the last year, maybe a couple of years in all honesty. I think it's great that we have a very interesting, unique character here. I think the tooling and sculpting is really top notch. I think they've done a great job. It could benefit from a little bit of additional shading as ever with these things, which is a shame. But all in all, I'm really impressed with this figure. I love his size. I love how he imposes himself on the collection. And I think he's an absolute winner. So if you're a fan of the X-Men and you happen to like this character, then you're probably going to want to pick up every figure in this wave. Because I think it's actually a really strong wave. I think they've done a great job with this particular wave. I feel like there's plenty of value for money in here, especially if you're a long-time collector. And actually, you appreciate different eras of the X-Men. You're probably going to feel well served here. I definitely have no regrets, and I can definitely be quite critical of the Marvel Legends approach when you have to have builder figures in there. But this is one where I think it's a really strong wave. I really think the builder figure is actually worth it. He's really good quality, and all in all, I could not be happier. I think this is money well spent, and I'm pleased. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving the video a like. That kind of thing really does help the channel out, and it allows me to keep making more content. And if you're interested in seeing more content, remember to hit subscribe, as there'll be plenty more videos coming soon.